Hey everybody. Thank you so much for joining me today. I did my very first Sunday sermon live, which is just the sermon, devoid of the Episcopal liturgy that I celebrate as an Episcopal priest. Because, ancient liturgy is not everybody's bag. And if ancient Christian liturgy is not your bag, then here we have the Sunday sermon. And I did it live, and that was super awesome. And I meant to record it. Oops. I set it for an automatic record, and I had to set another setting to have it override that. And I kind of forgot about that. Oops. So it didn't record. This normally might not be a problem, except I happen to know there were a few people who are like, I can't go there. It's Easter Sunday. I got a Zoom conference with my family at 9, but I'm going to watch it later on YouTube, to which I say, super awesome. And then later on I say, oops. So I decided to do another recording that is not in fact live, unless you count the cats that are sleeping around me. And I'm just going to do a little bit of a synopsis. The Sunday sermon was about 25 minutes long, and there was some question and answer afterwards. Obviously, it's not going to be that long. Obviously, the cats don't really ask many questions, unless it's time to get fed. And then it's like, you haven't fed us in years. Where's the food? So the topic of the Sunday sermon was about love, which, if you know me, is not hugely surprising, because that's kind of what I like to talk about. But it also had to do with the power that you and I have in this world to transform this world. And that it is a very real power, and it is a power that we can exercise even in quarantine. So let me talk about that for a minute. When I think about love, I think about not Hallmark cards and red hearts and roses. The roses are nice. I don't think about chocolate, though in other respects I do think about chocolate, because chocolate is awesome. But when I think about love, I think about something that is more industrial strength. I think about a toilet bowl scrubber, to be honest. Not that I love scrubbing toilets, you understand. I think of something that scours you clean of hatred. When I think of love, I think of an industrial cleaner that wipes clear all of the pain. When I think about love, I think of something that supports others like steel rebar. When I think about love, I think about the strength of granite. And so when I talk about love, even though, yes, I also write romance and I write erotica, and yes, I'm also a Christian priest in the world, and some people see Christians as sort of lovey-dovey if they're not screaming hatred out of a megaphone. It's hit or miss with that, really. But when I think about love, I think about how it has the power to transform you and me. Now, I am a Christian priest. My particular denominational flavor is the Episcopal Church, which is a mainline Protestant denomination. It means that I am not Roman Catholic. It means that I am not Orthodox. And yet, we have this ancient ritual because we trace our heritage right back to the first apostles of Jesus. So, when I talk about love, I'm getting these words from my religion and from Jesus. But the thing about love is that Christians haven't copyrighted it. The thing about love is that the injunction, the instruction, the commandment to love is something that is present in every religion. It's something that is present in every philosophical lineage that I've looked at. Now, present and popular are two different things. Something can be present and you can gloss over it and look at other stuff. And in fact, Jesus gave his own followers 2,000 years ago this commandment to love each other. And depending on whose story you take, the commandment looks slightly different, but it is in essence the same. Love yourself, love your neighbor, love God, or love each other as I have loved you, which is kind of like saying, love yourself, love your neighbor, love God. And so I get it from Jesus, but it's everywhere. It's absolutely everywhere. But it's easy to overlook. It's easy to ignore. It's easy to do everything else first. And then if you have time left over in your day, and you won't, pro tip, you won't, then maybe you can practice loving yourself. But that's a hard sell. So then maybe you can practice loving your neighbor. Ooh, that's even worse. No, they're terribly annoying and horrible and gruesome and perhaps violent. No, then maybe you can practice loving God. Oh, now there's a safe prospect. Because what does that even mean? How would you even know? Perhaps just loving God means like going to church regularly or something. Or, being out in nature and being like, yes, I love trees. I love trees. I love the wind. And it's a lot easier to love trees and love the wind than love your neighbors. And it's a lot easier to love trees and love the wind than to love yourself. Because here again, when I'm talking about love, I'm not talking about hearts and flowers. I'm talking about loving yourself means being the healthiest person that you can be. Not just in a physical fitness sense. Being the healthiest person that you can be means that you tackle your fears. And you soothe your anxieties. And you are better tomorrow than you were today. And today you are better than you were yesterday. It means growing as a person and being calmer and happier day by day. That, to me, is what it means to love yourself. And when we start practicing that, it opens up avenues in our minds, ways of being we never even thought were possible. And when that happens, we begin to have the ability to give that to others because we finally do have it for ourselves. And this, I would posit, is the one true power we all have in the world. I don't know if you're like me, but there have been times in my past, and by that, I mean huge swaths of decades, where I really thought I understood how the world should work. I really thought I had it. And I really thought that if everyone else would just do what I told them to do, it would be so much better. But that is a charming path paved with good intentions that goes straight to the dark place. I don't mean hell. I mean, literally, a dark place where you cannot see the way out. My mother, may she rest in peace, gave me a beautiful piece of advice. And like all mothers giving beautiful pieces of advice, she could tell I wasn't absorbing it. And like all daughters getting beautiful pieces of advice from their mothers, It took me a really long time to understand what she was saying. Like, I understood the words, I'm not an idiot, but to understand it in a deep way, to own it in my bones, that took longer. And it took other people telling me something similar. And it took some hard lessons where I had to realize, oh, that's what mom meant. And the thing that my mother told me was that you can't change other people. You can't change other people. She knew because she tried, and it didn't work out for her, and it was quite painful. And you'd think I could just learn by watching, but no. And the truth is that you can't change other people. Other people don't change unless they decide they want to change. And if you turn that statement around and look at your own self, you're not going to change unless you decide you want to change, which is where we come back to the practice of loving yourself. So the place where this has power, and I'm talking real power, and power in the sense of the definition in physics of power, the capacity to act on a thing, power. This has power because the only thing you can actually do in the world is change yourself. Change your reactions to what comes at you in the world. The things that trigger you, the events that happen, and your reaction to them. And as I said just earlier, in that other live sermon that didn't get recorded, oops, it may seem now, or very recently, that is in fact the one thing you have no control over. You have no control over how angry you get when you see the next live press conference. You have no control over how scared you get when you read the newspaper. You have no control over the anxiety in your life. And if you did, you wouldn't be in the hellish state that you are. Thank you very much. It would seem that that is true. And yet, that's why people go to therapists. That's why people practice meditation, to get a space, a mental and emotional space between all the things that are coming at them in the world and all of their reactions to them. Because when we can get just a little bit of space between those two things, it no longer seems like such an automatic reaction. We've got a little bit of breathing space, a little bit of elbow room. And if we've started a practice of attempting to love ourselves the best way we can today, and attempting to love other people the best way we can today, if we've got that going on in the background, like an app that's constantly monitoring the internet, if we've got that going on in the background, then when we finally get just a little bit of mental emotional space between all the things that come at us and all of our reactions to them, then suddenly what we're able to do is have a different kind of response. Instead of fear, instead of anger, instead of worry or concern, or pick an emotion that you prefer not to have. Instead of having those as instantaneous reactions that we feel we have no control over, suddenly the app of love that is running in the background has a moment to kick in first. And there is a point at which it does become automatic, but there is a point in which we have to choose. Do I want to respond in love, or do I want to yell at this person? And I recognize that yelling at them is not a loving response. And so when we start claiming our power, that is when we start following some kind of practice of love Doesn't matter if it's Christian. Doesn't matter if it's inspired by Jesus. What matters is if you're doing it. And when we start trying to get just a little bit of mental emotional space between the things that are coming at us in the world and our responses to them, we have an opportunity to change ourselves, to change our reactions to the world. And when we do that, this is the part my mother didn't know about. When we do that, we have an opportunity to change other people. Now, not in huge ways, at least not at first, but in small, incremental, and incredibly important ways. When I respond in love to you, whether you were, obviously being very nice to me, or you were obviously being a total dick to me, when I respond in love to you, even if it means holding you at a distance, speak to the hand, please. Whatever the healthiest response I can manage for you, it changes something inside of you. It changes something inside of you. Now, I don't have the scientific research that I would like to back up this claim. It's true. And so it is one that I hold lightly, gently. I suspect that this is the truth. And I am open to being convinced of something even better. But I deeply suspect, that when we are actively practicing love, we absolutely change ourselves. And we absolutely change other people. And we can do it from afar. We don't have to be in phone contact with them or in physical contact with them when they're, within the 6 feet parameter. We don't have to be watching them on YouTube. We don't have to be watching them live. We don't have to be emailing. We can be sitting in our room, a quarantined hermit, and thinking our thoughts. And if those thoughts are of love, are of the highest echelon of health that we can manage, that changes the world. That changes the world. And so, this is a power that we can claim. It's something we can actively do. And friends, it's not easy. It's simple. It doesn't have many steps. But if it were easy, humanity would have already accomplished it many millennia ago. When Buddha first started talking about it. When Lao Tzu first started talking about it. When Jesus first started talking about it. When Muhammad first started talking about it. And those are just 4. Those are just 4. This is not easy. And even when we practice every day, it is not easy. But that does not mean it is not worthwhile. That does not mean that even in the midst of abject failure, or at least what feels like abject failure, that we shouldn't give ourselves a moment, pick ourselves up, dust ourselves off, and try again. And so I'm asking you to consider this way of love. If you feel like, yeah, that sounds kind of familiar. I'm digging it. I invite you to deepen your practice. Stretch yourself a little bit. Get ready for the next step that you can take. And if you're hearing this and thinking, yeah, I don't do that. But it sounds interesting enough. I encourage you to think about doing it. You don't have to rush. The world will wait. The world will still be here. And people will still be cruel and rude to you. And people will still be kind and loving to you. And when you're ready, you can start to modify your response to them. And if you think to yourself, no, under no circumstances, I understand. The option will remain open for you forever. And that's fine. That really is okay. So that was the essence of my sermon. I've now preached it twice. This is something I sometimes do on a Sunday. Just about the same length. Sorry, it wasn't any shorter. I'm obviously not taking questions, but I will relay one of the questions that was asked. Someone said that they wanted to boost this post and put it out on Twitter. And so what URL or site or whatever should they put out there? And so I'm just at this point directing people to my website, which is sareliz.com, SARELIZ.com. And I'll have a post or two up there about the Sunday sermon and what's going on. It might not be today because today is Easter Sunday and I'm a priest and I'm busy. But before I get going, I wanted to give a great big thank you. This is a thank you. It seems to be reversed, so I will do something about that. This is a thank you to my patrons on Patreon who are all awesome. Thank you. And I also wanted to say, if you want to join my Patreons, you can do so at patreon.com/Sare Liz, SARELIZ, just like my blog. So I will see about flipping my fabulous homemade titles in the video when I do some editing on it. And that's all I got. I hope that you have a wonderful Easter Sunday. I hope that you have a beautiful day. And that even if you can't be with the family that you would like, that you're able to reach out in love to them anyway. Thank you for joining me. Bye.